Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's March 6th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And there's a couple of news items today. Make note of that. But you can see it was just an inside day today. It looked like it was going to be a really strong rally at first, and we backed off about half of that before the day was over. And I don't think we made a new high. I'm pretty sure we didn't. So it's just an inside bar on the daily chart. Notice we are bouncing off that midline still, but we're overdue, so we may turn back down finally here and get some more down movement. We'll see. We could go straight back up tomorrow. This market doesn't want to go down, and generally you don't see more than a couple of down days in a row, and then it's rallying. So, but we'll see what tomorrow. It didn't close as strong as it has been closing, so. Um, we'll see what tomorrow brings. But there it is on the daily chart. Let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and take a look at that and go through the trades. There's good many trades today, so let's flip over. Okay, here's a look at the 2000 tick chart. You can see that we really had two legs up. We didn't quite get a measured move, and that led to a bigger move down. But as always, right at the close, they rally it up. When the volume gets low, they kind of rally it up. So we took a good bit of it back. We never filled the gap down here either. They tried multiple times, but we just couldn't get down there before 2:30. And then, of course, once the volume thins out, like I said, they rally it back up. So we found resistance here three times in a row, so we could turn down during the overnight. We'll see what happens. What's happening right now doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but I guess it's actually 30 minutes before the market reopens. But anyway, you see the chart mostly just sideways. There's two legs up and then multiple swings down. This is real choppy and stuff here, but there's clearly some trend lines over here. So you may still, there's still some trades in there. So, but let's zoom in, go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. Again, there's a couple of news items. There was one at 7:15, a couple of high volatility ones, unemployment or non-farm employment type stuff. So you got a little spot in here, and then at 9 o'clock you had the JOLTS job openings, and so you get a little spot in here, really from about 10 till 9 till about a few minutes after. As soon as it settles down, but you can see it didn't really make a whole lot of effect there. But you still have to be aware of it, and you still probably want to be flat because you don't know when it will have an effect. If it gets to the point where used to stuff like this didn't affect the market very much, I didn't worry about it too much. But lately, with all the economic stuff going on, and we've had a little more issues, so I've started to pay a little more attention to it and be flat for it. Eventually, we may get to the point where it doesn't matter again, but we're not there yet. But anyway, uh, really about by the time this bar formed, you could tell nothing's really happening here, and that's it. Within a couple of minutes. There's a bounce here. Um, it's a first entry and then a second entry by the counts. Um, I didn't mark this trade, and the reason is because it's mostly sideways and then a little failed breakout, and so that's just you're breaking. You're trading a failed breakout there, in my opinion. I don't really have it drawn that way, but let's just draw it on there and you can see it. So I felt like you needed to count this as a new high, really. And so that's a first entry, and then it pulls back and it gives you a second entry here. The reason I wasn't crazy about that one is it's right back into all that resistance. However, the failed break lower here is probably going to give it that extra boost. You can see it took a few minutes to work through, but it did. Maybe you take that trade. I'm not crazy about it. Same thing here. You can see we've been coming from the high to the low to the high to the low. And we haven't got back to the high here, and you got your first break of this green trend. But notice you get a new high there, and you get a first entry, second entry. It looks just like congestion, really. But the thing is, it's the EMA hole, and we're probably going to go make a new high and maybe even touch the upper side of the channel again. The problem is from here to the little double, triple test top there, you don't have much room. Let me zoom in a little more. Maybe that make that a little easier to see. But you can see you don't have room to scalp out there. But it's still a fairly strong trend, a second entry, and so if you there's reasons to to like the trade too. So it's one that if I'm going to take an aggressive one, that's probably one I'll take. And of course, it runs up, it hits the other side of the channel, and it works down, and it finds support basically right at the EMA. Didn't quite touch it. Bounces again, uh, um, and then we're working sideways. You can see the resistance up here now, and you get a little failed break higher. But you don't want to short this because the channel is still in play. There's no break of it yet. Turns out it's a great short, but you just don't know that. And then if you notice, you clearly get two legs down. They're probably real close to being measured legs. And you can see that right there. Real close to being measured. Two measured legs down. And then it bounces. Then you get two legs up. Unfortunately, this is your signal bar, and this is an inside bar, so no trade there on that second entry. Then we're just working sideways, and you're getting into the news again. So about 850, you want to be flat. There's no trades in there anyway. Possibility you might have tried to get long here on this breakout, but you see what would have happened here if you'd tried that. You'd have got burned. Then of course it continues on down. You can probably trade this by 9.0. Really by here you could probably trade that. So 902, 904. That's just the first entry, and then but you do get your break and a new low, and then it's trying to go higher. You get a close outside and two legs up to a new high here, and then it comes back down, and notice you get a triple test right there with a good signal bar. We're really just kind of working sideways again. So as long as you got room to scalp out, take that trade. I like that trade, especially the fact that it went a little lower but still closed well inside. And you don't know this is going to break out, but you figure it'll go back to the test of the highs again. But this thing just keeps going. And you might get a measured leg, so you always want to keep that in mind too. And that puts it on up there too. But we got a little more than a measured leg, and then you get your close outside new high, and it comes back down. Then we're working sideways again. Failed to make this one pink. Do it just to make it easier to see. The pink means nothing special. I just do it to make it more simple, and I generally try to use the same colors for the same things. So, but you got a trend working down and a close outside and a new low, and then you make a triple test that closes inside. As long as you got room to scalp out, take it. And we're kind of working up now too, so that thing runs on up, comes back, and it kind of sets a trend line here. There's no setup here really that I like. I mean, you might call that a failure, but this just looks like a double bottom, so first entry. I wouldn't trade that as a failure. There's actually a trend line working up here, but I don't think this is anything you want to trade. I just don't see a decent setup anywhere there. And of course, it runs back. You get a little bit of an overshoot. Now, what will usually happen is you'll either overshoot or you'll come up short a similar amount. In this case, we came up short, but there's no way you don't want to trade that. It comes back to the trend line again here, and it still holds, but it's just a first entry, and the signal bar is terrible. But finally, you get the break here. Again, first entry, and you're still in this channel. So, and then you're just chopping sideways, nothing here. This is too congested. Once again, it's just a little range. So there's nothing really there to trade. And it breaks out, and we're just chopping sideways. And again, you don't want to go short into that support. You see what happens there. It would have worked, but you can't risk that. And then we come back and we're just testing this. Notice we got some support there on those last three, right at that midline. Then we test it again. We test it again. Then we get so now you're right across here. You got a triple test, but it also tested it way over here. So you might have argued there's a triple test right here. The problem here is you're really in a lower range and there's not a lot of room back to these last few highs. But then all of a sudden it tested again. It's not a perfect signal bar, but I think that closes in the upper 130. If it doesn't, it's real close. I like the trade regardless. If it breaks above it, you'll probably get a scalp, and maybe it'll take off and give you a measured leg like so. And you see that gives us the same target up there where the other measure. We don't quite make it, but it runs up here, and then we're just chopping sideways again. There's a failed breakout, no setup there, and you can't go short right in support. But notice you get this new high, then you get a first entry, then you get a second entry. This is a place where you might get a reversal. And it's really a breakout pullback short, but you can treat it like a reversal. It breaks higher, fails, and turns down. If it breaks below that, you may want to go with it. I like that trade. You got to be careful with breakout pullback trades, but we're looking for a reversal anyway. We had the break and clearly two legs, more than two legs up. So there's a good chance we could turn down here. But we do make a bottom and we come back and test this one more time. And notice this is a double bottom, so it's a new low right here. So first entry, second entry. I like going short right there. It takes a minute, but it ends up all of a sudden the bottom falls out of it. You're just looking to try to get a scalp back to the EMA, and who knows, maybe it takes off. But man, the bottom fell out of that thing. That was the trade of the day almost. You had to ride out this little bit of sideways movement, but once it took off, it was off to the races. There is a hidden second entry here, but the signal bar is no good. But notice that big channel, break, move to a new low, and then bounces and it's headed back to the highs again. Again, I don't think you want to buy. There is some previous support here, and you are way away. This does break lower and turn up. If you took that, if you're going to take it, I like it on the engulfing bar since you're so far away. And if it does break by there on the engulfing bar, it's probably headed back to the EMA at a minimum. But in this case, this thing takes off. So it turns out to be a great trade. But you got to be careful. One of our main rules is don't try to pick tops and bottoms. You need to be a very skilled chart reader to be taking these. And somebody actually asked me that today. And usually you want to be taking it on range days when you're looking for a reversal off the support or a reversal off the resistance. But there's some previous support there, and you clearly got a channel down with a break and a new low. But you could get another leg down, but you should still get a scalp out of that no matter what. But this thing rockets off. So if you could catch those two trades, this one would be better because it's it's a green one. But if you're going to take aggressive ones, this is the kind to take. And of course, you get this huge move up, close outside, move to a new high, and it turns down again. So I like that big bearish bar. You can see that there, way away from the EMA. It's just a failed break out of congestion. Take that. It's going to probably at least come back to the EMA, and if this trend line is correct, it's probably going to run all the way back down to here. Doesn't quite do that. It gets close, but notice just boom. And then you get a break, new low, and then you're working higher. Now this is a higher low. I didn't mark it because we weren't back to the low side. So it's just a first entry. It is a higher low. But we've already been back to the EMA, so that could break higher on you and turn down. And so it's just not worth risking. And of course, you get a break here and move to a new high. It doesn't quite make it up here. And again, this is very similar to that one. Very similar to that one. It's another kind of repeat pattern. It breaks higher, fails, and turns down. You could trade that on the engulfing bar. I'm more apt to wait on this one to close. There's more stem there, but if you did trade that on the engulfing bar, it gives you more room back to the EMA. But that's the concern here is we're getting above the EMA and it could hit it and bounce. But notice it gets back under it and tests it multiple times and then goes lower. If this wasn't all matching lows, even then you still could argue it's tested that several times, so it's probably going to go lower. But it doesn't have to go very far to get a new low here on this little micro channel. But it's clearly 2 legs down. It's not a second entry long down here either, so I wouldn't take that. But and I just think that's too congested. You can see it right there. So I think you got to skip it. But you get a failed break lower, so and then it runs up. But you get a close outside, move to a new high, and then you get a bearish bar, and it does confirm that trend line. I like going short there. By the time this one forms, I think you have to sit tight because it's looking like congestion too much now. It should have gone on down. But then it comes back and it gives you a lower high with a big bearish bar. If it breaks below that, go with it. And you could call that a failure too, but you're just really trading it as a lower high off these highs right here. Now that's moved a good bit, but this came back to the trend line, and it gives you such a good signal bar. I think you're fine to trade it that way. And of course we come up short down here again, even more than so. That's giving you clues that we're about to get a break. Now will it break it this time? Not necessarily, but it ends up doing it after we came up short several tries. You still don't want to buy it yet, but it runs up here, gets a close outside, comes back. You just get a first entry. It runs to a new high. No setup. This actually broke lower, I believe, and went up and then came back down. So I don't see any way to trade that regardless. And then we're just chopping sideways. You don't want to buy this because we're still looking at a possible retest of the low. And then you get a 1, 2, 3 triple test. This does make a higher low, but it's such a bearish bar. If it breaks below that, I think you're okay. I'd prefer to see that close inside. And if it had, I'd mark it red. But since it closes outside just slightly, I marked it green. It's still because it makes it a little less certain. But you get 2 legs down, the second entry long down here, but you can't buy this. And then you get 2 legs up, and of course there's a second entry right there, but signal bar is no good. It doesn't give you a lower high, so no chance to trade that one. So now we're headed back up again. Same thing, you get another second entry, but this is the first trend up. This is more just sideways, so that's just a first entry, and the second entry comes over here. It actually comes when it breaks below here, and that's probably bearish enough to go ahead and take that one. But if you didn't, I'd take this one. Again, it looks just kind of like this right here. And normally I don't draw this trend line, but when you get a move to the new low that just keeps making lower highs and lower lows and starts to give you a trend channel, then go ahead and mark it. But yeah, this I like going short right there. Another nice move down, comes back. That's just a first entry, no close outside the channel yet. It just takes off. Now you're bouncing down here multiple times, but you still don't quite have a new low yet. It's trying really hard, but it comes back and you get a first entry and then a second entry with a 2-bar matching high double top. So if it breaks below that, it's probably coming down and trying one more time at least. This is after 2:30, but it's just like a couple of minute or two. So on a second entry in a big strong trend down like that, I wouldn't have a problem taking that under these circumstances here. It's clearly respecting that trend line again, and it's clearly a very bearish bar on the second entry. And you got a double top there, 2-bar matching high. You've tried to go hard once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's probably going to run back down here and test this again. If it holds, then it might take off and test this one again, and it does, but it just keeps going this time. Of course, the volume's starting to get thinner up here, so it makes it easier to get out of there. So there it is. Quite a few trades today. Most of them, or I shouldn't say most of them, but several of them second entries. Really, the way the price action has been is so choppy. You've got to trade range rules a lot, triple test and things like that. So learn to Watch the videos on that, study up on that, because that's what you really are having to trade mostly now. But there were some second entries off the key entry point today. So you got a little bit of both today. You actually got some movement up and some good movement down, but there's still a lot of sideways. Even though this is a downtrend, it's a very choppy one. So you got to be real careful that you don't get chopped up. But there it is. That's how I saw it. Not much else you can say about today. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. And tomorrow's Thursday, so this week will be over. It feels like I just got back. I've been so busy, I guess, trying to catch up. But I'm getting close to being caught up. I'm going to get back into try to get in the forum. I hadn't been in there much. I know. I just haven't had time. I can't seem to get caught up with the regular stuff. And as soon as I do, I'm going to get into the forum there and try to get caught up there. I know there's probably some stuff sitting there waiting on me. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.